Well, here we go, another episode of Gear or Gadget. Before we dive in, we gotta lay down some ground rules. Rule number 1, no use of the term or wordage game changer does not exist. If you say it, you will be exiled. Rule number 2, we're not here to brand bash anyone. Rule number 3, if you guys find some value in this content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and leave us some feedback in that comment section. All right, so what I have today is not necessarily a specific piece of gear, but more of a concept. So in 2021, I kind of went headfirst into the high FOC trend, went down the Ranch Fairy wormhole, knock tuning, arrow tuning, load your arrows up with 300-400 grains up front, the 700 grain arrow setup. And quite frankly, I spent almost 2 months. I don't even know how many man hours. Went down every single wormhole I possibly could and just could not get the arrow flight and the arrow performance that I was after with these, I don't know, call them heavy loads, I guess is what kind of
adult arrows.
Yeah, the adult arrows, which I've always shot adult arrows, always been on the heavier side, but never been above like 12, 13, 14% FOC. So I went down that wormhole last year and I just could not get my arrows to do what I wanted them to do, which led me to just doing a bunch of due diligence about arrows, about the arrow industry, builds, vanes, performance, all of it, A to Z. And what I found was kind of upset me a little bit, okay? And, I can relate it to what I learned about trail cameras through the mid-2000s, I guess, where a lot of the market trends, marketing terms, a lot of the stuff that is used to sell arrows doesn't really have any meaning, and a lot of times they're kind of falsities. So what I want to talk about today is arrow straightness. I'm always a guy, again, the gear profile on me is buy once, cry once. Like, you get what you pay for. And with those price tags, a lot of times when it comes to arrows, you'll see the pro model that will have a straightness tolerance of 0.00 thousandths, and you can look at 0.006. So it could be the same shaft, but because the straightness is different, they cost more. So in my mind, being uneducated, being ignorant on the topic up until several months ago, I thought I was getting a better arrow shaft. But in reality, I wasn't. The other thing when it comes to straightness, which I just learned in the last probably 30 days, that there is no industry standard to test the straightness of an arrow shaft. So by ASTM standards, it's full length shaft minus 2 inches, and you have the deviation from one end to the next. Again, no standard testing policy or standard testing procedure. You could measure the last inch of the shaft and then the front inch of that shaft and void the middle and come up with your straightness tolerance based off of that. So this whole thing is a falsehood. I think it's not necessarily a scam because I think it does mean something, but people are not educated enough on the process to know what they're actually buying for and what they're getting for the dollars. So in my mind, arrow straightness is a gadget.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And with the recent endeavors with the Deer Gear podcast, I'm spending a lot of time talking to Dorge from Fire Knock, and he's kind of the one that educated me on this topic. And I want to kind of talk about like the process. So why we're saying this is a gadget. So you have this arrow, okay? This is X arrow. You have this shaft that goes through its building process, and it goes through the process and it's made and it's going down. There's a bunch of them made, right? They just take the same exact shaft that's made the same exact way and just batch them.
Yes.
So this is 0.000. This one's 0.001. This is 0.003. And you get arrows from that batch that just have the same tolerances. So they didn't do anything else to that arrow to make you pay more for it. They just batched them because it came through the same process. I don't know what the process is called the arrows are built by. Whatever that process is that comes out, they spit them out. And you have batches. It's just like afflictor broadheads. They'll take their broadheads and they'll batch them. So you'll have 97 grains all the way to 103 grains from the same batch. And then they'll just take them and put 97 with 97, 97, 103, 103, 103. They don't charge you any more for that, right? Because you're getting a different broadhead. It's the same shaft made the same way. It just comes out, one's a little bit straighter than the other. And that does not correlate to a better flying arrow. And that's the big thing with this.
Yeah, a lot of people think the straighter the arrow, the better your arrow flight. But I want to question you guys and think about at what point in your arrow flight is your arrow ever perfectly straight? Just think about that for a second. So I know there's going to be some comments about paper tuning, and yes, maybe, no. There's more that goes into it than just this, but the concept is arrow straightness is a gimmick. It's a gadget. And people need to be educated on it.
If you're familiar with our content, it's the megapixels of the trail camera
Very,
industry.
yep, exactly.
I remember being at an archery shop when I was in high school, and I was shopping to buy arrows for the first time by myself. And I remember the show floor guy like, well, we have these Carbon Express whatevers, and then we have these blue streaks. These blue streaks are even straighter, and they were like drastically more per dozen. And I wanted the best arrows, so I spent more money on it. And, I think everyone's probably crossed that road at some point, and it can be really frustrating learning the truth of it.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Gimmick. Gadget.
Yeah, for sure. So should we roll into the next one?
Yep.
So the next one is something that's very fun and I think has taken, I wouldn't say like the outdoor industry by storm, but it's a new product category that has gotten a lot of attention. A lot of new companies have been birthed in this category or for this product only, and it is an e-bike for hunting. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. It is a very fun product. So I got an e-bike in October of 2020. And I remember getting access to a new farm that was very open, very rolling terrain, very Iowa-esque in the sense of just open little fingers and ditches throughout the whole property. And access on a property like that, as you can imagine, can create its own challenges. And so, I got that, and that thing is pretty sweet. And if I had to break down the things I really like about it, it is the access to and from the stand, but not in the sense of what you're probably thinking. So I had access to 2 different farms there. One of them's a mile and a half away. I would park at the other farm, get ready, get dressed, ride my bike all the way a mile and a half. And I think that itself adds so much more stealthiness to getting in than what you would probably even anticipate, because deer hears you open the tailgate, here's your radio, turn down the phone, ding, you're getting text messages, and it's the whole thing. And people just do not take that in consideration when it's quiet out. There's no, it's an October fall day. The deer hear it. So just doing that unique aspect of access has definitely helped. Beyond that, man, checking trail cameras, can check cameras a lot faster. You can zoom around, and there's just a lot of things that I think that people underrate in that sense from the quietness. But there's some things that I think people probably overvalue with the e-bike, and that's something that I've heard people say like, well, if you're just riding your bike, the deer don't really mind it. I think we've all heard people say that. I think that's kind of bullcrap. I'll be honest. I mean, I think that if you're going slow and like steady, maybe. But the deer still see you. They're still going to be on edge. It's not necessarily how many deer do we walk by that they just hunker down tight and they don't leave. That doesn't mean they're comfortable with you. They just know you're there and they're not going to run towards you. So I think that's something that people kind of overvalue when it comes to with the e-bike. But I have the Baku Flatlander, and it is indeed made for flat land. If you put too much elevation pitch in it, the bike really struggles. They're very expensive. I think that base model is $3,470. You could probably go buy a four-wheeler. You could go buy a lot. You could go buy a golf cart. So that's one thing that you have to really consider. Is it really a good fit for you, and are you going to get that much value out of it? I don't know, but they are sweet. It is. I would probably consider it a toy. Do I use it every chance I can? Yes. And they get a lot of flat tires too. That's my last pick on the rant here. But overall, it's a pretty sweet product.
I guess going back 6 years, maybe. We've toyed with a bunch of different e-bikes. I mean, we have one sitting in the shop out here. That was in Cameron's hands for a while. John and Michael have had, I don't know how many, 6, 5, 6, 7 of them maybe. They certainly have their application. Can come in handy. My problem with e-bikes is what you're paying and the product that you're getting, they all just, it doesn't matter which brand you're looking at, they all seem to have the same issues with the drivetrain, the sprockets, the chains, the tires. I mean, they're all notorious for getting flat tires. Like when I look at that price tag and know I'm going to have like a headache on my hands within 12, 18 months, man, that has me sweating a little bit.
I would call it a headache. It would be like a splintering headache. I mean, like flicks in a flat tire. How bad is that? Beyond that, that's the only issue I personally have had. And but I get what you're saying. For the dollar per value, I don't know if that space hasn't seen enough competition yet or enough innovation yet. I think that's the problem right now. So I think maybe as that product category matures, it might become better for consumers. If you're on the fence, I'd probably say wait would be my overall opinion. But man, get to your stand and not sweating your butt off. What's the value of that? Pretty nice.
Yeah, no doubt. And the only thing I'll add is our kind of market sample size, like going back 6 years ago, a lot has probably changed since 2016, 2017.
I agree. I used that e-bike that we have out there for a long time, and I used it to access a piece, and I actually killed a deer that day. And I drove it from my house, so the piece of property that I was hunting was like a mile from my house, so I didn't even have to take a truck in. Drove it from my house, drove down there, parked like right next to where I was hunting because it's quiet, got out, crawled to where I was hunting, and shot a deer. And I had to like then drive my bike back home to go get my truck to come back and get the deer. But it definitely aided in me getting into an area that if I would have had to walk all that way and make all that noise, I got in there quicker too. So I don't know. And I didn't have to leave like my boot scent, my ground scent on where I was riding through. So that was a big plus. I liked it. But the chain wouldn't stay on the thing, and my stealthiness became like not so stealthy process, and I was making so much noise because my chain was popping, and I'm like cha-ching, 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 coming through the woods, and I was like, this ain't it. Just I stopped using it for that reason because I could not get the chain right. I'm not a mechanic. I need to have to take it to a bike shop or something. I couldn't do it, so it's been in there for about a year or plus. But when they're working, I do like them a lot.
So yeah, what's the consensus?
I'll say if you have it in your budget, yeah, it's gear.
Yeah, I agree. If you got it in your budget, I think it's a expensive piece of gear.
Yeah, for sure, expensive piece of gear. If you're in, like I said, but if you're teetering and you're not sure, I would probably hold off. That's my true, honest feedback.
So moving on to item number 3, I'll make this one fairly short. It's to the point. This product is on the opposite end of the budget spectrum, and it is to take care of a product that's more expensive. And I think this is an overlooked process. So this is mink oil, or kind of. But I did some research. It's one of those things where I bought a product and I was looking up to see how it worked. And I found out that this specific item is like 0.1% mink oil, but they can just call it mink oil, and it's actually beef tallow. So if you're gonna buy some mink oil after watching this video, I don't necessarily recommend this product because beef tallow can go rancid, and then your boots are gonna smell like rancid beef fat, and then it also can deteriorate your threads and stuff. So mink oil for your boots, taking care of leather boots, is something that I think a lot of guys just flat out overlook. They don't do it. You buy a $400 pair of Crispy boots or Zamberlan boots or Kennetrek boots, you wear them and you're like, these are gonna last me forever because it's Italian leather and they're expensive. If you don't take care of them, you are drastically shortening the lifespan of those boots. And I have a really good example. So I have a pair of boots that Jake and I both bought, and we both were very unhappy with how quickly they were cracking and they weren't holding up. I put mink oil on them, an application on it last week, and these things are like new again. So they're not stiff. It's a pliable leather now. The cracking is gone because it's rehydrated, and it just kind of brought them back to life. Now, mink oil will dye your leather a little bit darker, so you have to be okay with having a little bit darker boot at the end of it, but it has waterproofing ability, and it will just keep your leather like new. If you're in a spot where you want to get the most life out of your boots because you made a big investment, mink oil application gear.
Yeah, I think boot hydration system, the maintenance that you do in your boots, to me, it's a must. I mean, we spend a lot of money on our footwear, and you have to maximize the life because you don't want to spend $300-$400 on a pair of boots every other year. Like, that's defeating the purpose of spending higher dollars on a quality product. And to me, like, the boot maintenance it's always been a necessity. I mean, I can go back to the construction days in my 20s, 20 years ago. You're in a ditch laying pipe all day, you're in wet feet. Like, you have to take care of your boots if you want them to take care of you. So this is a no-brainer for me. Piece of gear all day.
Yeah, I wish I did do the hydration on my Zamberlans to the point I used Black Rock leather. It's a smaller company out of here, and people rant and rave about it, but it was not mink oil, so I wonder if that would have been better. But I ordered some Crispies actually last week. They're headed to the office, so keep an eye out for that. I'm going to make a point to do a little bit better and see if that helps with longevity.
Yeah, just for a quick application, rub it on here, let it soak for 5-10 minutes, and then you want to rub the excess off. That is what's going to leave a scent, and it's going to collect dust and dirt, and that's going to get in your threads of your boots, and then you're going to have your threads come out. You want to apply it around the stitching. So leave that on there for 5-10 minutes, wipe it off. Every 1 or 2 weeks, if you use them a lot, you want to reapply.
That frequent?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
If you're going to rub it off, if you leave it on, it's good for a lot longer. But if you rub it in and then wipe the excess off, you should do it every 1 to 2 weeks. Like during the hunting season where you're wearing them every day, you should do it every 1 to 2 weeks. And another kind of rule of thumb is when you have them and it dyes your leather a little bit, makes it darker, when they start to look light again, reapply.
Yep.
So
Makes sense.
that's it.
Good advice.
Gear.